Hi, I'm Anthony D. Mays, software engineer at Google, and I'm here to talk to you on the topic of one to more, why sharing our narrative matters. Again, my name is Anthony Mays. I'm a software engineer at Google, just a software engineer, but I also happen to be a DEI advocate. And I think it'd be interesting to start off by just talking about how I became a DEI advocate in the first place. Uh, I started off my life as a foster kid in Compton after being exposed to physical and sexual abuse. And throughout that journey, I learned how to be a programmer and learned how to code when I was very young. Began to become very interested in computer science and went to the University of California, Irvine to get a degree in that area. I went throughout my career not thinking that I was good enough to reach a place like Google or one of the other big tech companies, but I always wanted to work for Google. And so after failing the interview process and then succeeding on my second try, I now find myself a Googler. And it's been the culmination of a lot of things and a dream come true for me. And I didn't anticipate becoming a DEI advocate. Uh, by the way, DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, if you didn't already know. And these are things that are very important to me, which is one of the reasons why I've become so passionate about advocating for more diversity, equity, and inclusion in tech, championing more belonging in this space that has traditionally been challenged with not having enough representation from various individuals. And so I want to talk to you today about how I do this, how I advocate for better DEI through something that I like to describe as sharing your narrative. Now, there's three things that enables me to do what I do as a DEI advocate. First is just having a strong company culture that enables me to do what I do. Second is having the support and participation of people from throughout all levels of the company. That's been very important for me as others have championed and supported me in my work. And then lastly, this idea of sharing your narrative. So I'm just going to break each of these down to be more clear. So when we talk about having an empowering culture, there's really four things that I think work well about the culture at Google. First of all, the culture is strong and well defined. There's things that make Google's culture unique. The people that we hire tend to be very intelligent, tend to be quirky. We describe it as Googliness, right? Googliness is a description of the culture that we seek to have, one where innovation is encouraged, where people work hard, but are also able to collaborate. A culture where you can have fun and enjoy what you do, but at the same time, tackle very deep and hard and meaty problems. And that kind of culture is well suited for someone who is working in the DEI space because there are so many challenges. There's a lot of obstacles to overcome, and having a culture that champions and supports the best and brightest is important. As part of that, trust in leadership is important. And I don't mean managers and managers of managers. What I mean is leaders, people who are naturally inclined to find a problem and see it and want to tackle it. You want to find people who can be leaders, even if they don't have the formal title, as I don't. You want to support them in leadership. And it's important that when you find leaders that you trust them to be leaders and support them in their journey. One of the other things that's important about Google's culture is the emphasis on results. So it's not just about saying cool things, it's about doing cool things. And as a DEI advocate, one of the things that is important is that I'm held accountable for showing the results of the work that I do and making sure that we're moving in the right direction. Measuring results is important too. So having regular surveys that gauge employee sentiment and really understanding how people are thinking and feeling is a very important part of ensuring that the culture remains strong. And then last but not least, there are enablement tools. And in order to be a DEI advocate, there are a lot of tools that I need. Everything from scheduling and calendaring to social media tools to templates to program guides, you name it. There's a lot of tools that are used in the work that I do to help me be effective. And it's important to have quick and ready access to those tools. Oftentimes, I'm not needing to ask for permission to use these tools. I'm just encouraged to use them and to use them responsibly. And having that kind of freedom enables me to be very effective as a DEI advocate. Now, in addition to the culture, another thing that's very important is making sure that everyone is helping to drive change. In a culture, it's not just up to one or two people to decide how that culture is going to be. Every time you add a new person to the company, every time you add a new person to the culture, it impacts the culture. And it's important that everyone understands that they have a role in place in this discussion and in this change. It's not just up to Black people, such as myself, for instance. And when you don't have a culture in which everyone feels encouraged and empowered to participate, it places a burden on those who really seek and desire, maybe even need change, to do the work. And that's not healthy. One of the challenges of being me, being a person who happens to identify as a Black man and as a Christian, is that there aren't that many of me in tech, at least not yet. And it's unfair to place all of the burden on change on the people who are the least represented or who aren't well represented. Furthermore, it's important for everyone to understand why you want more representation, why you want more inclusiveness and belonging, so that everyone can buy into the same vision going in the same direction. Now, one of the things that I believe is very important towards helping us achieve this goal is the idea of the narrative. And it used to be called diversity narrative. You can call it that, or belonging narrative, however it is. But the idea of the narrative is that it is a story that fleshes out who you are. It really fleshes out not just who you are, but why you care about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I would like to think that the narrative reflects the things that don't show up on your resume, right? A lot of us have skills and qualifications that we know make us suitable for executing the business tasks that we are assigned to execute. But there are other things that inform how we are the way that we are. These are attributes and qualities that we gain over our lifetime that inform the technical aspects of what we do. And it's really about, as Martin Luther King said once, the content of your character. And we want to have a good understanding of how our character is shaped the way that it is, and how it is that we relate to other people, and how the differences that we bring, most importantly, inform how we make decisions, whether in a team or on a project, so that we're able to build one another up. And this is really about making sure that we've got a culture of belonging, right? Where everyone feels like they have a part in the discussion, where everyone feels like they have a part and a role to play, and that they feel like they're part of the team in helping to achieve the right results. In today's climate where you have such underrepresentation, it's common for people like me who come from a non-traditional background to sometimes feel excluded, or to not feel like we belong as we should. And I've talked to many people who have had that narrative over the years, whether it's a woman who's a software engineer but is treated as though she's a project manager, or whether it's a Black person who is misidentified, or any of those other things. Those kinds of interactions cause people to not feel like they belong. And as a result of that, sometimes when we chase diversity before inclusion, we end up making this revolving door effect, where the people from diverse backgrounds that we hire end up walking right back out the door because they don't feel like they're part of the organization. And so narratives can help build more representation and more belonging, more specifically, within the organization, so that people who are hired and new talent that comes along know that they are part of the organization, that they're part of the team, and that they belong and can do productive work. And so one of the things that I think I do more than anything else as a DEI advocate is to empower other people to share their narrative, to open up about what makes them them, and how they contribute to the culture and to the team and to doing the things that they do in a more holistic way. And so this is what brings me to a special initiative that I started within Google. And I'd like to share it with you, because I think you may be wondering, well, how do you share your narrative? How do you encourage other people to share their narrative and to talk about who they are and what they bring to the table and why DEI matters to them? I think that once you understand how to encourage other people to do that, it can have a very powerful and transformative effect, as we'll talk about shortly. So I started a thing called Share Your Narrative within Google. And what it does is it provides a platform and a framework and a space for people to talk about their narratives. And I think that it's one of those things that really helps to scale my impact as a DEI advocate. Because I'm just one person and I want to have as much impact as widespread as possible while I'm sitting in my seat. And I believe that the Share Your Narrative initiative has helped me to do that. As I mentioned before, the Share Your Narrative initiative really is three components. One is a platform that is built and used in order to encourage people to, first of all, understand what a narrative is, and then to how to share it. Two, there's a framework, and so there's specific things that make up a good narrative, and we talk about that. And then lastly, we provide an environment where you can explore what that narrative is and understand how it works and how you can improve it and make it better. So first thing, the platform. When I built the Share Your Narrative site, it was very simple. It was just a Google Sites site, and it linked to a Google Plus community, which is now Google Currents. And that's really all I needed. Google Currents was great for providing a place where folks could post video, articles, images. As they're sharing a story from their life, they're able to show a picture of maybe that time of their life to help folks visualize what's going on, or maybe pointing to a helpful video. You know, having rich multimedia on a social media platform is very important for helping people to really share parts of themselves that maybe they wouldn't otherwise share if they didn't have that kind of a platform. On the website that we have for Share Your Narrative, it's just a static page. It includes some instructions and FAQ, really very simple, but it's a one-stop place, one-stop shop for finding out what a narrative is and how to share it. And at Google, we make it very easy to share websites. We have special links. And so I crafted a special link that points to the site and made it very easy and memorable for people to get to. Next comes the framework, and I'll admit that I didn't invent the diversity narrative framework, but I more than heartily use it. Now, a diversity narrative really is formed of three parts. First, there's the reason why you care about DEI. And so you talk about what are the things that are meaningful to you about improving representation or more belonging or those things. And you'll just briefly touch on that theme. And the theme will set up for the second part, which is a story that helps illustrate why you care about that aspect of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It should be something real, something that happened. It can be something that relates to a business situation that you've encountered where you saw an optimal result achieved because of DEI, or the opposite if the lack of representation didn't result in the outcome that you were hoping for. So there's that story. And you know, if there isn't a story that you feel comfortable sharing about yourself, perhaps it's something that you've noticed in another situation that didn't directly happen to you that made you think about why DEI is important. Certainly, the events pertaining to George Floyd has caused many to not just hear about, but also see some of the reasons why this work is important and impactful. And so you can talk about that in your narrative and share maybe a moment from your life where it really hit home for you. And then the last thing that I'll talk about in the framework is a call to action. So you'll have the purpose why DEI matters to you, you'll have the story that connects to that purpose, and then lastly, some call to action. And the call to action is super important. In the call to action, you want to make sure that you're inviting people to join you in the work, because hopefully in parts 1 and 2, you've inspired people to understand why they too should care about DEI. And if they're ready to act, you can provide them a way to join you in the work. The last thing that the Share Your Narrative community does is provide sort of a safe environment for people to share their narrative and to feel supported. And so it manifests in two ways. Number one, there's someone who reviews the narratives for spelling and grammar, and just to make sure that things are cohesive and succinct. Then once someone decides to post within the Google Currents community, other people can like on those narratives or share their comments or in support support the people who are writing. And from what I've seen, it's always been positive. It's always been good when people post these narratives and are able to say, hey, I connect with that. One of the other unique things about specifically using Google Currents is that in our community, we were able to sort posts by a number of different factors. And so if you were writing a post that focused on why age representation matters, you could categorize your post that way. Or if you're talking about race or gender, you could categorize those. And then it gives the community a great way to be able to see the narratives from these various axes of diversity that one may care about. Now, our community is rather small. It's just 156 community members and growing. And I'd say that's not bad for a software engineer. But if those numbers seem small, I want you to think about the multiplicative effect of sharing your narrative. See, a narrative isn't just shared within our community. Oftentimes, it can be included in an email link. It can be shared during a team meeting. It can be spoken in an offsite, used during a speech before a great technical presentation. There's any number of ways that you can do that, even just sharing with your own family or friends. By sharing your narrative, you connect with other people and help them to understand why it matters to you, and if they care about you, why it should matter to them as well. And so the narrative has a multiplicative effect. My own story about my journey to Google from Compton was featured in the BuzzFeed video that had over 5 million views. And certainly, it's probably safe to say that hundreds of thousands of people all around the world have heard my story and narrative and been encouraged by my journey as I've given of myself to talk about how it is that I came to be in this space and how I encourage other people to do the same. And so there is this multiplicative effect of each and every single one of those individuals, some of whom are engineers like myself, others are executives, some are in sales. They come from all different parts of Google and all around the world, and they participate in this community and also share their own narratives in places that we may not be able to see. And so there's a great and positive benefit of being able to see these narratives grow and be shared widely. You know, this really is about scalability, right? There's only so much that I can do as an individual, but I want to make sure that I can empower the next generation to do what I'm doing and to do it even better so that we can encourage more inclusiveness and belonging in the space. Now, I just want to end with a couple of final thoughts that I think are important. First of all, understand that knowledge isn't power, not knowledge by itself. Knowledge rightly applied is powerful. And that's really what this is about. A lot of us have been learning over the past few months about why the conversations about race, about inclusion, about belonging, not just in tech, but in the world, why these things matter. It's not enough just to sit on that knowledge and not do anything. It's important to do something. And sharing your narrative can be one of the easiest ways for you to be impactful in terms of inviting other people to the conversation, inviting other people to the work. Now, even though it's one of the easiest ways, it's still not easy. And I know that it takes you sharing a bit of yourself that maybe you didn't plan on sharing at work. And that's okay. You're not alone. And one of the best things about the Share Your Narrative program is that it has shown people that they're not alone. I'm not alone as a person who has struggled through a rough upbringing to become a software engineer beating the odds. There are other people like me across all different backgrounds and all different shades. And that's really what belonging is all about. At the end of the day, I know that as a result of this program and other things, that I belong just as much as anyone else because I'm a Googler. And so I hope that this time has been encouraging to you. Thank you for tuning in to watch this presentation, and the best of luck to you and as you pursue greater diversity, equity, and inclusion in your company or organization. Thank you.